So I want to talk a little bit about Pantheon for agencies. This is a really neat facet of working on Pantheon. If you are a business who is making websites for other people, this is really actually quite a wonderful tool for managing all of that stuff. So in this lesson, I'm going to quickly go over the benefits of Pantheon for agencies, and then we'll look at how you would create an agency profile. And then I'm just going to take you through the agency interface so you can understand what it's going to provide for you, because it's got some pretty awesome stuff in terms of really understanding what's going on with all of your projects. So the quick list of benefits of Pantheon for agencies, I mean, essentially the essential benefit here is that you manage everything in one place. So you have a list of all the different sites that you have going on, and we'll see there's different ways to sort of slice and dice that list so you can get a nice overview. You can manage the users who are on the team and which sites they are on, as well as permissions that you can switch back and forth. It can also be very handy when things change in terms of needing to update an entire team, or you're handing something off to a client and you need to change these things sort of in bulk. It's very, very nice. We're also going to talk briefly about the ability to add your own custom upstream. So when you get that list of different things that you can launch when you create a new site, you can actually create your own custom one. We'll talk about that more in a minute. And then we're also going to look at support tickets that you have within this organization dashboard, which is different than when you have your other stuff. And then another really, really wonderful thing here is that you have access to multi-dev. It's assuming that you're doing a development on a whole lot of sites and that you're going to have teams who are working on this stuff. And so you can just use multi-dev. You don't have to go in like site by site and select a plan to be able to have access to that. You'll get it just because you're an agency and you have one of these agency organization accounts on Pantheon. So first, in order to get set up with Pantheon for agencies, you need to go ahead and get an account. It's a different account. It's an organization account rather than a personal account. And so from here, if you go to Pantheon for agencies, you can read more information just sort of about, and they have this video that sort of gives you an overview. But you want to click on this Get Started, and then you're going to need to fill out a form that you submit to them. So it's going to ask for your information, and it asks for some examples of your work. They want to make sure that you actually are out there building sites. That's what you're doing. And then once you submit that and you get your account information back from Pantheon, you are set to go. And this is an example of an agency or an organization dashboard. So you can see it defaults to sites, which is the main thing I'm normally managing when I'm looking at this stuff. So here's a list of all the sites that I currently have going in various stages. You can see that 4 of them are in sandbox. One of them is actually pro and is launched. So I can quickly see that and filter by that information. And I get an overview of sort of like what's going on with each of these sites. You'll also notice we have additional filters over here. We have tags, so you can create your own custom tags to help group and organize your sites according to how your organization works. You can see the different upstreams. So like if I wanted to just see like what are all the current sites that we have that are under support right now, I can do that, and it filters this list down and gives me just that. And then once you're in here, you have some bulk operations. So let's say that I wanted to update something for all of my support sites. When I select one or all of these items in the site list, these tabs up here become active. And so I can add and remove tags. So this is where you actually create those tags to begin with, and you can remove them here as well. You can also just click on the little X to remove them. Really handy though for like something like this. Like let's say I had a new person I was onboarding into my support team, and I wanted to make sure that they have access to these existing sites that are in support. I can add a team member. It's a simple matter of typing in their email address, and boom, they would get added to these sites. And then, of course, you can delete the site or remove the site from the organization. Now, deleting the site actually deletes it from Pantheon. Removing the site from the organization would remove it from this Drupalize.Me organization, but I, as the owner, would still own that site. So whoever's the owner would still have it. It just wouldn't show up in this dashboard anymore. And you can also export this view here to CSV if you have a lot of things and you want to have that data in some other reporting that you're working with. And you can also see you have the big old Create Site button. And this works exactly like creating a site, anywhere else in Pantheon. It just starts this up. You can actually select which organization. So if this was a personal site for me, then I would say none. But if I wanted this to be an organization project, then I would leave it at this affiliation and go ahead and just create my site like I normally would. You can also, in addition to these filters here that you can click on, you can also filter with just a text box here. So it just starts to autocomplete immediately to narrow the list to get to what you want. So really handy to be able to just keep an eye on what's going on and the various stages of where things are. If I want to see only stuff that I actually have launched with Pro, I can do that. Super handy, especially when you have a lot of sites. Another big feature of this, of course, is managing your people and your teams. So again, you have a similar interface here for the people, which roles they currently have. You have the same kind of thing where you can filter on a name. You have operations for removing or changing roles, exporting again. Adding a user, very simple. You would add the email address and select which role they should have within your organization. And we're going to talk about the roles in a little more detail in 1 second here. So you can set all of these things up in here in terms of who's on your team, like I said, and then it's easy to add them to sites under the Sites tab. Now, let's talk a little bit more about what those permissions are and what that means, because it's important to understand that you have the organization dashboard here, but you also have people on an individual site dashboard. So sites have dashboards, organizations have dashboards, and you want to make sure that you understand how those relate to each other. Now, there's a good documentation page here on Pantheon that breaks down what those things are. So until you get familiar with them, you probably want to keep this as a handy reference so that you understand what those permissions are and how they work. And you can see that this table is broken down with the role, the organization dashboard being one thing, and then what happens on the site dashboard with these things. So you could see like a team member in the organization can add other team members and developers, but it can't remove or edit the roles. So they can add team members and developers to the organization. This means within a site, they can manage the settings, manage the team, both add and remove, and deploy code. So again, you just need to understand the differences for these permissions in the two interfaces, what's actually happening. So for the organization, what we're looking at now, these are the permissions that are going on here. So someone who's just working on stuff, developer, team member can actually manage my members, the team members a little bit. And as the organization administrator, I can manage everything. Now we have some other interesting tabs. The other two that I definitely want to hit on is upstreams and support. For upstreams, this allows you to have your own custom base for creating new sites. So if you have created your own distribution, or if you have your own code base that you like when you start a site, you can work with Pantheon to get an upstream added in here, and you can manage your upstreams here. But what that means is when you go to create a new site and you're selecting which product you're using, so Drupal 7 or WordPress or Commerce Kickstart, additionally in that list, you would also get your custom upstream. You could just start that site with everything you need out of the box. Very, very handy feature and something worth exploring if that's the kind of tools that you're using. And then I also want to look at support. The beautiful, beautiful thing about this is that all of your support tickets for all your projects are in one place. So each site has support tickets, right? So you can go into that site and see what's going on there and deal with it. But sometimes it's really nice to have an overview of all of the support action that's happening at Pantheon. And when you have a lot of sites, it's really tedious to go into each one to figure out what the status is of those things. So this is, again, it's just something that's designed for agencies, for people who are actually managing a whole lot of different projects at the same time, trying to make your life a lot easier. And then, of course, we have settings where, well, it's where I can change my lovely logo, and you can get some partner information as well. But the really big things here, these dashboards for managing is tremendous. The ability to have your upstreams is great. All your support tickets in one place. And the ability to just use multi-dev on all your projects. It makes this offering from Pantheon just a really, really sweet deal. And the main thing to keep in mind, this is free. The service, like having this dashboard, all this stuff, this is free, and you just pay for the sites when you launch them, just like you do in normal Pantheon. So if you do have multiple projects running at the same time, I would highly recommend that you check out the Pantheon for Agencies offering and get yourself signed up for that. We did review the benefits of Pantheon for Agencies, which I have just sung the praises of again. We saw how you would create an agency profile. So you need to fill that out. It's separate from a normal user account. And then we took a tour of that agency interface, the organizations, and all the features that we have in there. And it's really good stuff. So I recommend that you check out Pantheon for Agencies.